Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm curious, can you raise your hand if you're not part of the applicant team? Amazing, amazing. I'm so glad we have a few folks. And whatever brought you here tonight, I will be letting folks in online. We do have a few, which I'm excited to see about as well. And also thank you for taking the time, if you're online, away from your families, to sit in on this meeting. So my name is Em Myler. I'm the Neighborhood Development Liaison. So I connect the community with development that's happening near them. I do neighborhood meetings such as this, as well as help with public comment and generally just as an access point for people in the community to learn about development that is happening. We also have several other staff here. I'll be introducing them to you in just a moment. Let me get some slides up for folks online so you can see what we're looking at. All right, and we'll get started. So for a neighborhood meeting, we do require these meetings for various types of development proposals, and they're really to make sure that the community has an access point fairly early in the process to learn about the project, ask questions about the project, and then submit feedback on the project if they would like to. I'm going to point out my friend here, the owl. This is a pretty nice camera that we have use of, and he will look at you when you talk, so you'll be on camera if you speak up. And he's also recording tonight, so all of the feedback that we hear, they'll be heard by the numerous people in this room who are here to hear you, as well as kept for the decision process down the road via the city. So when you're speaking, it's not just going off into the air, it's being caught on this wonderful camera that we have. I am doing an introduction right now. In just a moment, I'm going to pass it over to the planner on the project, Arlo. He's going to talk about the project from the city's side. It's a little bit different from some other development projects, so we'll talk about what makes it different and what the process looks like. We will hear from the applicant just what they're planning to do. And then the majority of our time should be set aside for questions and answers, as well as comments if you'd like to make them. And then I will not let you leave without knowing next steps, how to engage further, and what to expect from this project moving forward. So just an overview of this person in of what is kind of going on. All the basics are in this slide. I'm not expecting you to memorize anything. We don't have any pop quizzes tonight, but this is here to give you kind of a visual representation of what we're at. Development review is the process by which the city reviews any development project that's happening within our boundaries to make sure that they follow all of our codes, most notably the land use code. This is a kind of shortened process graphic for you here. And the reason I include it is to mainly point out this yellow spot here that shows you how early we are in the process. And I just mentioned that because sometimes when we get to a neighborhood meeting, we may not have the answers to every question that you have quite yet because we're still kind of figuring some things out. But we're here to make sure that we catalog all of your questions so we can answer them later. The reason why we hold them so early is so that any feedback that you have has time to be implemented when the project is a little bit more flexible. The process after the neighborhood meeting will be a review by Arlo and our various city staff. We have over 10 departments who look at this project, and then we will reach a land use recommendation for this project with the land use with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So that's the end point, and that's the next time for you to engage on this project. And I'll tell you how to get involved in that in the end of this meeting. Who's here and who's involved? We have the applicant team, which is the majority of you this evening. It's a whole bunch of different professionals who work in engineering or architecture or land development fields who are going to make this project happen. And they're requesting the city review and approve it. We also have city planning staff. Arlo's representing for that team tonight. They're going to be the main reviewers on this project. We have several other city staff. I have Steve, who was the loud gentleman on the microphone just a few seconds ago. He is our traffic engineer, so he can answer any questions you have about traffic impacts, for example. We have myself, who is that community connector. We have a Planning and Zoning Commission, which is a board of volunteers, residents, who will be ultimately making the decision to recommend approval or denial for this project. And we have you all who are here to learn and give us your feedback. I'm going to ask Arlo actually to talk a little bit about the SPAR process, Site Plan Advisory Review. It's a little bit different from what we often deal with in development review, and I don't want to get anything wrong.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I'll do my best.
I have some bullet points here for you if you need them.
Yeah, I have a couple of slides too.
And we can skip right to them if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so here are some of the bullet points that come out of Division 6.11, which is the outline for the SPAR in our city code process. It's based off of or in reaction to the Colorado revised statutes that deal with the SPAR process as well. Again, we have part of that process is a conceptual review, which has already happened, this neighborhood meeting. And then once we have those two, we review their applicant submittal. And the city must have a hearing on that and render a decision within 60 days of that application submittal. Again, it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the approval or disapproval of the application. And then in the scenario where the Planning and Zoning Commission disapproves, the SPAR may be overruled by the governing board by a vote of 2/3 of its membership, and that's the Board of Governors, CSU. So that's generally the SPAR process. There's when we have a typical process, there's sometimes multiple rounds of review and those sorts of things that shorten timeline. We still have that, but it's kind of condensed. And then the next slide really just outlines the scope that we review under the SPAR. So it's really kind of in shorthand, it's location, character, and extent. So is the project in a location where it's appropriate by and meeting the underlying zone district or sub-area plan or structure plan, and you'll see some of those maps. And then the character having to do with the design standards, both in the CSU's design standards and codes, and then if they do not speak to a standard, then we would look at our standards and respond. And then also the interface with public utilities and public right-of-way, where we have essentially CSU's project and its meeting with the city's property in the right-of-way. Yeah. Did you want to go back to any of your slides, or should we just keep on going with?
I think we can keep going.
Okay, so these next slides will just be really orientation to where the project's located and just kind of some background context on where it is and like what zone districts and those types of things it falls under. So here you can see aerial view. We have College Avenue over to the east, Center Avenue, and then it faces both Lake Street to the north and Prospect Road to the south. And here's just another kind of Google Earth view of it. As you can see, the existing property consists of a commercial building and then multiple residential buildings. And what we have, so the zone district for this property is the high density mixed use neighborhood district, HMN for shorthand. The structure plan map, which has a relationship to zone districts, classifies that as an urban mixed-use district. So an HMN zoning is appropriate in that urban mixed-use district. And then this project is also in our transit overlay district. So there's additional standards that go along with the TOD. And it's kind of hard to see probably, but there's a faint yellow line. So that the project does fall under the West Central Neighborhoods sub-area plan as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Arlo. We'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicants. Feel free to take it away and get you full screen.
Great. Well, thank you. Arlo, also thank you that was a great setting the stage. My name is Thomas Berry with Holland Basham Architects. So we're the design architect and architect of record for the project. In attendance this evening, we have representatives from CSU Strata, Tetrad Real Estate, Sunny Civil, who's a civil engineer for the project. We have Fred Habricht, who's a consultant of ours, also helping kind of guide through this SPAR process. So with this, I think we just kind of wanted to set the stage a little bit for the existing site and what's proposed. As Arlo kind of mentioned, there are some existing buildings here on site. These were constructed in 1965, so they've been there quite some time. Currently operated as student housing, so same use as we're proposing. Unfortunately, these buildings, given their age, have reached the end of their useful life. So we've been retained by CSU Strata and Tetrad Real Estate to help kind of envision what might be a better use in providing the much needed student housing for this property. You can see some images here of a few renderings of what's proposed. Brian here from our team, I think we'll jump in here in a moment. We have some additional renderings and design information we can speak to. But again, as this property is owned by CSU, it is part of this SPAR process, so we're navigating. We did have a few slides related to SPAR, but I think, Arlo, you did a great job of setting the basis for what that is. I don't want to muddy the water, so I'm going to kind of skip through these, and then we can come back if there are questions, certainly about the process and answer. So I think, Brian, with that, maybe I'll turn it over to you just to kind of speak to kind of some of the renderings and imagery.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, go ahead and maybe start with slide 3.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm Brian Ackert at Holland Basham Architects. So yeah, we're really excited to be here. Thomas, thank you for that. Arlo, also thank you for the introduction to this as well. As architects, we love a good challenge and we love unique sites. So one thing we always do when we jump into, no matter what project it is, start to look at site context, some of the different area around the site, and really try and learn about what makes that site unique. This one in particular, right? There's a lot of paved surface area currently on it. So you saw some of the different aerial images that some of the other folks showed here on the screen too. But also we've got kind of it's on the edge of campus, right? So on the north side we've got we'll call it CSU proper, and then on the south side where it's Prospect Avenue, which is a little bit higher traffic area, a little bit more vehicular based motion as opposed to a lot of the pedestrian based environment that's happening on north. We're also looking at kind of every architecturally, contextually, trying to see how different pedestrian paths go through campus. So we've spent a great deal of time looking at the West Central Plan as well as some of CSU's master plans too, to see how a lot of this may impact how we orient some of the different building solutions that are on the site. I think the big one too, Megan with Sunny Civil's here as well, there is a floodplain on the site as well that we need to contend with. So that was also a really big driver as far as how the building geometry came to be. We did look at a lot of different building design solutions as far as where housing is located, where parking is located, but then also making sure that the site, in certain events where Lake Street might get a little full, is able to kind of spill onto our site and doesn't affect the building. So again, just kind of more of a contextual look at the site and making sure that we're doing the right solution for this site. So with that, maybe actually go to slide I think it's, yeah, that one there, perfect. So these are two renderings here. I mentioned Lake Street as well as Prospect. The top one here is what faces campus. This is really the front door where a lot of the students are coming and going from their place of residence to campus, whether that's educational, some recreational components, student organizations. That's where everybody's kind of coming and going out of here. So what this is, you can see the building's actually elevated. That floodplain that I was talking about actually floods underneath this building. So we raised it up. So we have a area in here as well as an interior courtyard where some of those floodwaters can go in and then slowly recede back out. So very careful of what outdoor amenities we're using in those spaces as well. But this really is our front door that faces north towards CSU's campus. Down here, this is along Prospect Avenue. So there, you'll see in the foreground here, there is a new pedestrian connection that's actually going north and south that connects Prospect up the lake. It also kind of ties into campus as well. So there's going to be a new pedestrian connection there, not drivable in the case of just fire trucks. We do need fire truck access on that side as well. But this becomes primarily for pedestrian use, getting north and south. The other end, we've started to kind of decorate some of these corners with different student lounge spaces, study spaces, areas for the students to gather. There's a lot of some of those different corner conditions where we have student lounge space and kind of put that on display that way. Yeah, that's maybe it for this. One thing too, yeah, maybe go to the next one. This starts to show some of those interior courtyards as far as that front north elevation that faces campus there along Lake Street. But you'll see a lot of these renderings too, you don't see a garage, right? So one thing we were really careful with the garage was actually burying it inside of the building itself. So there is another alleyway between the current Lake Street garage and our new project where traffic access will be able to get into the new parking garage. But it's really kind of screened from view facing the other Lake Street garage. You start to see that in some of the elevations, which maybe sheet one. There you go. So right here. So this is actually facing the Lake Street garage. And then that other side where a lot of the housing is located is where that pedestrian environment is. Remember I mentioned that north-south connection? This is an elevation that you'll see a lot from Prospect as well as Lake. Maybe go to the next one more. There you go. This is that Lake Street campus facing elevation. And then the Prospect side, instead of creating a wall along Prospect Avenue, we do have these courtyards that are carved out to create a little bit more of a rhythm and a flow on that Prospect side. It helps kind of break down the scale of that student housing project. So, yeah, that might be it.
Do we have another presenter from you all? Or are you ready to move on to question and comment? Okay, excellent.
Great.
I'll stop sharing so everyone online can see us. I'll keep this up for you all to reference. Start with the two folks in the room, and then I think we have 3, maybe 4 people online, so I want to make sure we don't forget them either. Any questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious that vehicular traffic, I know that Prospect is extremely narrow, and I'm wondering how vehicles are going to get onto the site, into the garage. Are they going to be utilizing the center turn lane? Or
So we're going to have a new roadway on the east or on the west side of the project between the Lake Street garage and the new project. There's going to be surface parking, one zipper lot there. And then as well as that's where the entrance to the garage is going to be. So there's going to be no direct access from the parking garage onto Prospect or Lake, if that makes
The
sense.
project is access from both Lake and from Prospect.
Correct.
So it's not, anyway.
I guess my concern is, that center lane is used to turn south onto center, and that center lane, if the eastbound traffic is trying to also utilize that same center lane to get onto your site from Prospect and then, turning in front of traffic.
There would be a curb cut very similar to where it is today with the restaurant. So I think I understand, but there's a turn lane there on Prospect currently to go south on Center. And we'd be able to turn into ours going north if you turn right, if you're heading eastbound. Yeah, do we have a second? No, we do.
Which direction are you worried about traffic? This would be the,
I'm mostly concerned about eastbound traffic trying to turn across traffic because that center lane is so
Understood.
narrow that already where they utilize that lane to turn south onto Center, there's a bunch of confused tourists trying to get to the Hilton and they don't get all the way in that turn lane.
Understood.
And
Eastbound.
the same thing happens with westbound traffic, that same center lane at I think they call it Prospect Station. They can't get their car like all the way in there, and then they're sticking out. So then the traffic that's going down Prospect, you hope that there's no one in the next lane because you're going like this.
There's a turn left in the site going eastbound.
So
Got
there's
it.
already like 2 places in that stretch that are like that,
Mhm.
and I'm worried that a third one would be dangerous.
Got it. Yeah. I know there's quite a few curb cuts along there now. We'd be isolating it just to one as well. So there's a reduction in the number of curb cuts along Prospect. And I know there's also a traffic study that we're working on as well, as far as that whole area.
Yeah, it looks like we actually have Steve, our traffic engineer. He has his hand up. He might have something for us.
Yeah, just to fill you in, we are looking at this within the traffic impact study, and that's where our original request was for a right-in, right-out for that access drive that goes along between the 2 buildings, so to speak. So that's something we're evaluating. We just got the updated traffic study today, so it's something we're looking at, that potential of that access and possibly limiting that or what needs to be done to mitigate that. So it's something we're still evaluating, but taking into consideration those movements, as you said, with the 2-way left turn lane there on Prospect.
Yeah, the traffic study is one of those things that usually doesn't exist during the neighborhood meeting, and we get a lot of comments and questions about it. So I'm happy to send that to you when we get it in. It sounds like we just got it today. So if you sign in and put a little star next to your name, I can send that to you.
Okay.
I do have one hand up online. I have Michael. If you'd like to unmute, you can go ahead and speak.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm Michael May. I live literally right across the street from this proposed development in the Aggie Village apartments. I had a couple things to say, just a couple of comments and then a few questions. A few of the big ones are mainly around the pre-existing conditions of this the Prospect Plaza like block. There's existing affordable housing developments within the current Prospect Plaza. I wanted to ask, I don't know if this is like the place to ask if there's like going to be a continuation of those like affordable housing elements that exist already in the Prospect Plaza, because they have an incredibly like affordable commitment to affordable housing there, and I wanted to know if that was going to be carried on into this new development, essentially.
want to address that?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right place to ask about that. I will not lie. So if this is like the not the right meeting, I will talk more about like traffic and like location, because I can talk more to that.
I can answer part of your question, and maybe don't have a full answer for you yet. So
Gotcha.
I'm Pete Meyer. I'm with CSU Strata. We've owned this for a while, and we have and will always be committed to the students and to providing safe and affordable housing. That is our goal for this project. We're still working through construction costs, design, and all that, trying to finalize everything. But that is ultimately our goal as a private nonprofit organization. We have a fiduciary responsibility, but also the commitment to the students that we have to balance. There is a lot of costs to take into account here, but we are working with a couple of different groups in order to provide affordable housing units, and those conversations are going right now. So that's kind of where we are at this point, if that helps.
That does. Thank you very much. I also just wanted to say, I think the fact that you guys are already putting in a pedestrian thing is fantastic because, a lot of like this location, the best part about it is the fact that, for students, it is incredibly easy to walk around. You don't really need a car. I haven't had to use mine. I use mine very rarely. There's a reserve parking lot on Center Avenue that many students do use, and I'm certain the same thing will continue for all of these students that end up in this project. Ultimately, I think the traffic impact, won't be as heavy as we're thinking about just because of the sheer like walkability that will be allowed for these students that are, directly right next to campus. Um, that's mostly just like from the experience that I have as someone who lives on that block. I think sorry, I'm rambling, but I think this is a great potential project.
Thanks, Michael.
You raised a point, Michael, and that is this project also has transit embedded in it. So we didn't, we could pop to that slide and talk about that.
No, it's
So
great.
that's the walkability and a multimodal approach to this project
Maybe slide 2.
is something
The
to
Lake
brag on, so let's
image.
show it.
Sorry, maybe it's, keep going there. So right here, we've actually got a bus stop incorporated on Lake Street. You can see some of the bus pull-offs there with a little retail component on there as well. So covered area, being able to be out of the elements, knowing that there's currently a bus drop there. We're maintaining that and making it better with some different shading and covered elements that get you out of the rain, snow, and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it's a good point, Fred.
Great. Anybody else in the room? I do have a question in the chat. Yeah.
Also just about the bus stop, because I know there's one right now, like just the horn stops right next to the parking garage, which is right next to Prospect Plaza. Is that going to be affected during the actual construction? Do you know?
During construction.
We're, we're working with transport to find a way to maintain that stop. It would not, practically, would not be maintained where it is, but recognize that there is a need for that drop off for students coming from VTH specifically.
Yeah. During construction.
During construction. Now, at completion, then that is really an improved situation because there's a little cafe there, there's covered, you can shelter out of the elements, and then there'd be the same digital display of the horn coming through, much as you see at the Campus Transit Center at the Board of Student Center.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mini of that.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit kind of an alternate transit hub too, right? Because we've got a lot of covered bike parking underneath that overhang as well, knowing that that's where a lot of students are going to be coming and going. So it's a really nice feature there along Lake Street.
Do you know where you might move it during construction? I took the bus from PTH.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're trying to incorporate within the construction of the project, so it will be within our property bounds. So plus or minus 200 feet from where it currently is. Looking at being able to queue up the same amount of buses that we have there. Right now, we're just working through logistically to make sure that's a safe and comfortable spot, because we are building multiple stories and have construction traffic right on the other side of what will be a fence. So we're trying to make sure we have a good solution. We do have time set up with transport and around the horn to discuss what is the ideal situation for them during construction. Knowing it's going to be temporary, and we want to be able to work through that. A little bit of inconvenience, but ultimately we think is a better solution than what we have right now. The concern was from the existing with the turnaround, that bus does have to cross that sidewalk twice every time it comes in. So trying to eliminate that issue with just a pull off to the side, so there's really the bus and pedestrian interaction is really important.
And bus stop aside too, that kind of public right-of-way area in there with the sidewalk and landscaping, all that's going to need to get rebuilt as well. We have looked at the different road profiles that are part of the West Central Plan. and trying to maintain that as we're going through design. So pedestrian connectivity east to west is going to be greatly improved as well. I don't think there actually is a sidewalk currently along Prospect in this part of the project. So yeah, it'll be improved there too.
Yes.
Hi, I have a few questions. So what are students expected to do, like while affordable housing is not available? Where are they gonna go? Because their lease is in May 31st, and there's no comparable affordable housing in Fort Collins for these students.
Yeah, so for those of you online, the question was about where the students who are currently living in these buildings going to go during construction that is similar in price point and affordability.
I'm not sure we have an answer for you at this point. Right now, it's really, we're leaving it up to the students. We're trying to help as much as we can, but we don't really have a plan. Can't accommodate them on the site, obviously. But we've been trying to provide as much notice with them, get a team that is on site, 5 team members that are communicating with them daily, trying to help where we can, but right now we don't have a specific plan for that.
So is there a follow-up question? So will students who live in Prospect Plaza now be eligible for housing waivers in Fort Collins while the affordable housing is not available? Will they get any kind of financial help or any kind of like housing assistance while they wait for new affordable housing?
We haven't gotten to a plan to try and accommodate that yet. So right now, it's I don't really have an answer, but probably not.
Got it. A lot of the pre-leases for fall are all taken up, and housing is always a very critical issue in Fort Collins for CSU students, so just keep that in mind. And my final question is, a wheelchair-bound student was hit on Lake Street last year by the garage. Traffic is going to be a huge issue. How much have you thought about making sure that our new pedestrian trails and sidewalks are accessible?
They will be greatly improved going left to right along Lake Street as well as Prospect. And then also going north-south, we do have a dedicated pedestrian way going that way as well. And they will have accessible features as part of those.
Then there is a plan for Lake Street, a cooperative between CSU and the city to meet those needs of, there'll be additional mid-block crossings along Lake Street, and there will be protected bike lanes. So there's a project independent of this one that is addressing directly some of your concerns.
Thank you.
And I'll say from a civil standpoint, this project being built in the 60s, they did not have the ADA standards that we have now. So our commitment is to meet and exceed all the ADA standards for wheelchair-bound individuals. Not to mention safety is our #1 priority of the students, and making it more walkable in general. So that's one of the main considerations of the site work.
When will this project be finished? And what's the expected end date?
We're anticipating opening for fall of 2027.
Gotcha, so that's about 2.5 years for students to not have affordable housing for Collins. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions and your comment. Make sure I take those into mind. I do have a couple questions in the chat that I'll switch to, and then we'll touch base on the room again. So Cassie asked, how many beds will this development be adding to the market?
We're currently at around 240, and it's going to be upwards around 700. We don't have a final number on that yet, but that's what the expectation is.
Great. And how many beds are currently in Prospect Plaza?
Roughly 240.
Okay. Excellent. Is it on-campus housing only or off-campus?
It's not on-campus housing. The project is owned by CSU Strata, which is a separate nonprofit 501c3. Mission to benefit CSU, but it is not a CSU considered on-campus housing project.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I have here, just to piggyback off of what Michael was saying, will this function similarly to Rendezvous Trails due to Tetrad's involvement regarding the affordable units?
No, it's a completely separate agreement. This is primarily separate, or for student housing, the Rendezvous Trails acts as employee housing.
Okay, gotcha.
Can you clarify if the project is owned by Strata, CSU Strata, or?
Yeah, the land that the project is going to be, that the project sits on is owned by the Board of Governors.
Okay.
And then the improvements that are going to occur on the land, because the land is leased to CSU Strata, will be owned by CSU Strata.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And only as a result of our mission being for the benefit of CSU, and it being the type of project it is only available for CSU students to live in the project. So there will not be any individuals who are not students.
And Cassidy came in, she said she'd be happy to provide a list of available units at the several communities that she oversees along that strip, if it would be helpful for any students that may be displaced by this project. So that was very thoughtful. I'm gonna go ahead and ask folks online, if you have any more questions, go ahead and raise your hand while we wait for folks to do that. Anybody else in the room? I see Michael's hand up again. Go ahead, Michael.
All right, sorry. I definitely should have asked this earlier, but I just wanted to ask, has the current committee overseeing this thought about just like immediate things that they can do to help students that are going to be displaced from this? Say, for example, giving back. Oh gosh, what are they? I'm blanking on what they're called. Safety deposits, security deposits. Giving back security deposits. Making sure that at the very least students have the necessary, like working with the ASCSU Housing Caucus to let students know where else they can go. There's a number of things that essentially I think we should try to do to at least make sure that the students who are, going to end up being displaced by what is a very valiant effort to increase the amount of affordable housing. But we should make sure that at the very least the students that are currently, going to be displaced have the resources that they need to, find a new place quickly. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And I will say the city has some housing department, and I'm happy to share their contact information with anybody who's interested as well.
And CSU also has off-campus life located in the Laurie Student Center, which we're also happy to give a contact to, and they can help find new places for certain students.
And off-campus life has been involved with us walking down this project since day one. We started with them having conversations just to make sure that what knowledge base they have around students' needs were factored into where we were moving with this project from the very beginning. A great resource on campus to be able to tap into to find places to live. And I think the city of Fort Collins has changed the regulations around U+2, which also hopefully is helping students in the area affordability.
That's correct. I have one more question in the chat, just asking what the full anticipated timeline, including the demolition, when they can expect that to happen, and then completion, which you mentioned before. But if you just don't mind going over it one more time.
Demolition will begin in June of 26 or 25, sorry, this year, with completion summer of 27 for obviously for move-in and semester start of 27.
Okay. So if the sound wasn't great, demolition starting this summer and anticipated move-in for the fall 27 semester. Okay. Anybody else before I take you through our next steps and we start to wrap up and I can release you into the wild? Alrighty. So you'll recognize my, my graphic here. We'll just revisit this one more time so I can point out to you all the places where you can get involved from here to the end of this project. So like I mentioned, we have a neighborhood meeting with a "You Are Here" sign. This is where we're at tonight. Moving forward, we'll go through a review process, and for a SPAR, the review process from neighborhood meeting, which is when they've submitted, and which was a few days ago, a few weeks ago. So from submittal to decision needs to be less than 60 days per state law. So you can expect this to be happening very shortly here, and then we'll be going to a public hearing. Throughout this process, you are welcome to reach out to me anytime. We also have a website where things are posted online, and it's on a document that's in the front table where you signed in as you came in. We also will post a YouTube video of this neighborhood meeting, so if you're thinking I want to go back and remember what we talked about, or if you know somebody who wasn't able to make it tonight but would have liked to, they're welcome to watch that video, and then if they have questions or comments, they can reach out to me. My contact information is also on that document, and for folks online, I placed the same document in the chat for you. Once we get to a public hearing, it will act pretty much like any public hearing you may be used to. You'll be able to either send us a written comment beforehand by emailing it to me. It can be in an email, it can be in a PDF or a Word document. Whatever you want to send me, I'll take it. You can also mail it, drop it off here at this building if you'd prefer. Or if you're feeling brave and you'd like to speak in public, you're welcome to come to the public hearing and come up to the podium and speak to the decision makers directly. There will be a specific time on the agenda for you to do that. If you received a letter for this hearing or this meeting tonight, you will also receive the letter notifying you when the public hearing is happening, and we actually have it scheduled already for February 5th.
I believe.
So you'll also be reminded via a letter. And for the students in the room, I'll do the same thing as I did for this meeting and reach out to Off-Campus Life to notify you all. And then my last thing that I'd like to leave you all with is that you're welcome to reach out to me anytime. I can answer pretty much any question that you might have, or at least find the answer for you, so you don't have to sit in a phone tree. I can get you in touch with the applicants or any of the city staff that might be able to help you with any questions. And as I mentioned, I'm the place to send comments to. So make sure to take home my contact information. I have a card, I've got a document in this in the back there. You can take either one, and I should be very accessible for you all. Any questions about the process, where we go from here, etc.? I don't see anything else online, so.
Can you just announce the location too, of that February 15th?
Yeah, so the Planning and Zoning Commission hearings are held at City Hall, which is just down the street here at 300 LaPorte Avenue. They start at 6 p.m. And they are also hybrid. And similarly to tonight, you'll be able to find a link to join hybrid at that website, which is also on this take-home document for you all. So you should have all the tools that you need to join us at the hearing. Okay. I'm going to put up a slide with my contact information on it, and that is your cue to head home. Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you. Did you get your questions answered?
Not entirely, but hopefully, if I can start next.
It's okay. He's okay. He's still rolling.
We have owls at the office too, so poor guy.
They're a little tougher than you think.
Yeah, we had two of them together.
Yes,
You don't
never get
two in one room. They fight.
The traffic engineer was on.
So we should start with the. You